To see more content from Backstage Studios, follow me on Instagram for behind the scenes and updates on new videos. Link in the description. I have mentioned in some videos that I'm a huge Disney fan. Whether it's Disney or Pixar, the movies they made always had interest me. I wanted to review some films for Disney's 100th anniversary, but I didn't have time. But I'm reviewing one now, and if you read the title of the video, I'll be talking about Cars. Ever since this film hit theaters on June 9th, 2006, Cars was met with some people who loved it. Some didn't think it was as good as the previous Pixar movies, but thought it was decent, and some didn't care for it at all. Despite this, Cars became one of Pixar's biggest franchises behind Toy Story. This film, in my opinion, is so underrated. But first, what's the story? Lightning McQueen, voiced by Owen Wilson, is a hotshot rookie race car who loves racing but is very arrogant. On his way to his next big race in California, he gets lost and ends up in a small town called Radiator Springs, where he accidentally destroys the town's main road. Lightning is forced to fix what he did, but wants to leave the town to get to his race. Eventually, Lightning befriends with the town's residents, including Mater, a tow truck voiced by Larry the Cable Guy, and Sally, a blue sports car voiced by Bonnie Hunt. He also meets Doc Hudson, a former racer himself, voiced by ballet Paul Newman. Lightning eventually learns that there's other things in life besides for winning. He spends one more day in Radiator Springs with his new friends, but when the press finds him, he doesn't get a chance to say goodbye to his new friends, but they surprise him at the big race to cheer him on. The production of Cars starts at 1998 after Pixar had wrapped up the production on A Bug's Life, and it was scheduled to be released the next year, but that was dropped in order of Toy Story 2. A year later, in 2000, director John Lasseter went on a cross-country road trip with his family, which gave him the idea to make a movie about talking cars. And interestingly enough, Lightning McQueen's number was originally going to be 57 as a reference to Lasseter's birth year, 1957, but that was changed to 95 as a reference to the year Toy Story was released, 1995. I first saw Cars when I was around 3 years old when my mom or one of my aunts bought the film for me on DVD, and from there, my love for it sparked. I narrowed down the things about this movie that make it so underrated and needs more praise. The first one is the character arc of Lightning McQueen. In the first few minutes, Lightning was basically a jerk who thinks he can do everything by himself and wants to win the Piston Cup, as well as switching from his Rusty sponsor to the Dynaco sponsor. When he can't find Mac after he rolls out of his trailer, he ends up in Radiator Springs, and he's twice as bad as he was in the beginning. But he grows a heart after getting to know many of the townsfolk, and during the end of a race, where Lightning gives up victory to help the king, it felt satisfying because he has changed compared to how we first saw him. Also, when he gets the opportunity to race for Dynaco, he kindly rejects the offer and sticks with Rusty's. You totally see Lightning's journey from being a prick to a respected dude. And in some moments, you can see Lightning realizing the error of his ways and feels lonely when he doesn't have any friends besides for Mac. To me personally, writing a character arc in a film or a television show is very important, and I think Lightning's character is a great example of this. Doc Hudson is another character who has a great arc too. I just noticed this on my latest rewatch, and it's just as good as Lightning's. Doc used to be a racer known as the Fabulous Hudson Hornet, but was forced to quit after he crashed. Since then, he wanted to leave his past behind and didn't want to share it with anyone, and I think the way he treated Lightning was completely justified. But of course, just like how Lightning was wrong, Doc was wrong too, and ended up coaching Lightning in the big race. Paul Newman was the voice of Doc, and unfortunately, this was his final role before his death 2 years later. And as much as the Hudson Hornet is a real-life car, Newman was a former race car driver himself. Very impressive, Pixar. The final character until later in the review that I want to talk about is Sally. She had an interesting backstory just like Doc, only she was upset with her life as a lawyer in LA, but felt happy when she arrived at Radiator Springs. Plus, she and Lightning do make a cute couple, in my opinion. Another reason why I love this movie is the opening scene. It's just so exciting to watch the car zoom around the track and other aspects of the race. Speaking of racing, one cool feature is that some people who are involved with NASCAR or are sportscasters voice characters in the film. Whether they are race car drivers or sports announcers, these characters are meant to be car versions of their respective celebrities, if that makes sense. Since it's the first animated film I'm reviewing on this channel, I want to bring up the animation. I think Pixar did a pretty good job bringing these characters to life while still maintaining the functions of a car. However, I do kind of question how are cars born, but it's not a big issue for me. Now I want to talk about the other characters that I teased earlier in the video, including Mater. I know some people find Mater annoying, especially in Cars 2, but here in the first movie, I actually kind of like him. He's so dumb in a way that he's always so happy and go lucky and enjoying life without care. As for the other characters in Radiator Springs, I will say that they don't add a whole lot to the story, but they have unique personalities and cool designs. Like, Luigi and Guido are from Italy and are obsessed with Ferrari race cars. Sheriff is the no-nonsense policeman. Ramon loves to show off his paintwork and is married to Flo, who loves to cruise slowly. Fillmore, the laid-back hippie fan who often bickers with Sarge, the Jeep Army man. Lizzie, the oldest car in town, and Red, the shy fire truck. The numerous amount of songs in the film are really good, especially Life is a Highway. And the score. Good God, it's brilliant. Some of my favorite pieces including the score from the beginning, the drive with Lightning and Sally, and the triumphant music when Lightning helps the king. It's absolutely amazing. Now, there are some nitpicks that I have with Cars. The first one is, I already mentioned that the side characters in Radiator Springs don't do much, but it's not a major issue. But the next one is, Chick Hicks should have been disqualified for bumping other cars, especially for what he did to the king. I know he's supposed to be the villain and we need the plot to happen, but he's just a bit too mean. But despite that, Cars is actually a really underrated Pixar film. Maybe it's due to my nostalgia and my love for Disney, but there's so many good stuff in it that people should pay attention to. And it's in my top 5 Pixar films for sure. I would recommend it, but I'm sure you've already seen it. If you weren't impressed with it at first, then I recommend you watch it again with a positive mindset. However, if you like NASCAR or just cars in general, I can guarantee that you'll enjoy this movie.